Everybody, I'm Louise Gittleman, and I'm here once again with a Facebook Live, and I'm so delighted to be with you and tell you that because of your participation, Before the Change was the #1 new release on Amazon in 2 very special categories. And I'd also like to do a big shout out to First for Women, because we are the featured book in their 6-day detox that doubles fat loss forever. So thank you so much to my friends at First for Women. I have been privileged and honored to be with them for over 10 years. They call upon me for information and for some of the latest news to use, and it's a privilege to know that we're all still on the same page. And so now we're going to be talking about fats, which is a topic that I'm very, very well aware of, and it's a topic that has been the theme of many of my books throughout the past 30 years, believe it or not. I was the director of nutrition at the Pritikin Longevity Center way back in the day. It was the early 1980s. It was the heyday of the no to low fat, high complex carbohydrate diet. And I discovered throughout my tenure there that individuals that cut out all fat from their diets not only got fat, but had problems with their thyroid, their hair, their skin, their nails, their immune system, and their joints, as well as their brain and their heart. So I wrote a book called Beyond Pritikin, and thereafter I wrote another 29 books, and after that I decided it was time to really get the fat story straight. So I'm privileged and happy to say that now at this point in time I'm not a lone voice out there in the wilderness talking about the importance of fats, but it's really become very mainstream. So with that in mind, let's entertain any and all of your questions. I have my dear assistant, Allie, who is here with me now. She's going to be repeating questions, and I'll repeat them to you so that we understand where I'm coming from. Allie, you can take it away once again.
Why and how do fats work, and how do we know how to find the ones that work the best for each of us?
Well, I think what's important to understand about fats is that we have such a thing like an essential fat. There's really not an essential carbohydrate or an essential anything other than fats in terms of a macronutrient. You've also got your essential proteins, which are the amino acids, but you cannot live without essential fats. So there are 2 groups of essential fats that are important. Now, there's been a lot of promotion these days about the omega-3s. You know what they are. Those are flax, that's walnut, that's krill, that's also flax. However, there's another essential fatty acid family that's been overlooked and particularly ignored, which is the omega-6s, which is also essential, even though we get too many of the bad omega-6s because they've been altered. So those are absolutely essential as the precursors of something called prostaglandins, which are tissue-like hormones that affect the body on a cellular level 24/7. So without those essential fats, your system would not be working properly, nor would your heart be beating, your brain be operating, and your hair, your skin, your nails would be taking a nosedive. You need those particular essential fats that are very important, and those are the fats that are known as skinny fats. We've also come to realize that there's certain other fats, because of the latest research, that are very important to really pump up the thyroid. And in that regard, I'm talking about coconut oil. And there's been a big brouhaha because there was a recent article about coconut oil. But let me tell you, and I'm here to say that it's an essential oil in terms of your thyroid because it's very high in medium-chain triglycerides that the body uses to burn energy and cannot be stored. So I'm a big believer in coconut oil. I love the essential fats. I love the good omega-6s. I like linoleic acid. And the best oil to use, hands down, if you're going to use a salad dressing, is one that I'm sure most of you are not really aware of, and that's hemp seed oil, which has the ideal 3-to-1 ratio in favor of omega-6s to omega-3s. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Do you see any correlation between fascia and fibromyalgia?
Do I see any correlation? Say that again?
Between fascia and fibromyalgia.
Between what?
Maybe I'm mispronouncing it. The fascia, fascia.
The fascia. Oh, terrific. Do I see any connection between fascia and fibromyalgia?
Correct. Yes.
I think there's a connection between fascia and every imaginable mechanical or structural problem known to man. Now, fascia has been getting a lot of play these days, and that's why I think it's so important for you to stretch to stretch your system before you do any kind of exercise. So fascia is exceedingly important, as are the essential fats, which is the focus of some of my discussion today. So when it comes to fibromyalgia, I like to see the good omega-6s. I like to see some GLA in the form of black currant seed oil, perhaps some borage. And I also think it's important for fibromyalgia that you get checked for parasites, because certain underlying parasitic issues can really be affecting fibromyalgia as well as chronic fatigue.
I have kidney stones. I've recently done 3 gallbladder flushes a month apart and have been told I should complete 8. Do you agree? And if not, what do you suggest I do?
Oh my gosh. Well, what I can tell you is if this is somebody that has kidney stones?
Correct.
All right,
yes.
so the issue here with kidney stones is you need something to help dissolve the kidney stones. Now there's a product on the market that is known as stone root, which I know many herbalists suggest with very good success. There's another product which is known as Food, which is a standard process product. I have used it, recommended it for years. That will help to break down both gallstones as well as kidney stones. So I would get those products, look at the protocols, and I would definitely use them, as well as more magnesium, because what we find is that magnesium is very important in terms of breaking down some of the material that the most common stones are comprised of. Next question.
Will you share your thoughts on post-menopause metabolic syndrome?
Will I share my thoughts on post-metabolic menopause syndrome? Well, what I can tell you is, because I'm in postmenopause, is that it's not an easy situation to really deal with. You really have to make sure that both your thyroid and your adrenals are working up to snuff. And if you'll remember from last week, we spoke about the most important nutrient for the adrenals, which is hands down a nutrient that's also good for heart health, and that's known as pantethine, which is the active ingredient, so to speak, in pantothenic acid. So I'm a supporter of that in terms of your metabolism. I also find that coconut oil, I may have an example of that here to show you right now. I have a Nutiva's coconut mana, which is a combination of the coconut meat and the coconut oil, but about 2 tablespoons full will really trigger thyroid production and really help to speed up thyroid metabolism by 50%. So I'm a big believer in utilizing this, watching your carbohydrates. As we get older, our carbohydrate metabolism seems to take a nosedive. And of course, doing a full thyroid test to know what your T3, your T4, and your T7s are. But beyond all that, the adrenal and the thyroid go hand in hand, so you really need to assess that perhaps with an adrenal test, which shows you with 4 saliva samples where your adrenal circadian rhythm is and then what to do for it. So you need to test your glands. I think that it's all about glands and glandular health on a cellular level.
How do you heal a fatty liver?
Well, how do you heal a fatty liver? If you're drinking too much alcohol, you've got to reduce it, number one, or you reduce all of your foods that are high in high fructose corn syrup, which we know is part and parcel of a non-alcoholic fatty liver, and a syndrome which could be affecting over 70 million people. So the nutrients that I really suggest that you use would be, first and foremost, choline. Choline is a very deficient B-type vitamin in this day and time. And it's a product, it's an ingredient that I put together in a product called BioBuilder, and it's 500 milligrams 3 times a day. And I think this is important for anybody that has a fatty liver, has elevated cholesterol, or who does not have a gallbladder. You need that choline ingredient, number one. That's 500 milligrams 3 times a day to defat a fatty liver. And then you also have to make sure that your bile is free-flowing. That's very important, and thinned, and that's where your non-GMO lecithin comes in handy, or at least some sunflower lecithin to the tune of 1 to 2 tablespoons a day. Now, there's information about that in this book, which I'm promoting in case I didn't remind you. It's Before the Change. And so this book has a lot of information about that, and although it says Before the Change, it's really good for women 18 to 80 with all kinds of situations, including a fatty liver.
What do you recommend for people who are on fat flush and they're losing weight, but they're still experiencing belly bloat?
So what do I recommend for people that are on my program, which is the signature weight loss program, which is known as the new Fat Flush Plan, and they still have belly bloat? What I would suggest is that we do a very strengthening anti-mold, antifungal product. And I would make sure that your HCl, hydrochloric acid, is up to snuff. Because I find that if you're not digesting your protein or your iron or your calcium or your fats properly, sometimes the issue is lack of hydrochloric acid. So you can do the hydrochloric acid test, which I will print out and post for you, or you can take some hydrochloric acid at 500 or so milligrams per time, or just get more bitters into your diet, which would be very helpful in allowing your body to natively secrete more hydrochloric acid. And that would be something like your horseradish, maybe some gentian root, and angelica root. So there's all kinds of ways that you can deal with this, but truly hydrochloric acid is a real key when it comes to belly bloat. And as we get older, we lose the ability to secrete hydrochloric acid, so we need the nutrients that comprise it, like more zinc, more iodine, and more salt. Salt is very important, and it's an extremely important, I'd say, nutrient that we all need to the tune of 1 to 1.5 teaspoons per day.
What do you recommend for a 23-year-old who has recently had her gallbladder removed, supplement-wise?
So for a 23-year-old, 33-year-old, or 43-year-old, there's what you need to do is you need to be able to give your body the nutrients that it needs or the bile replacement that it needs if you no longer have a gallbladder, which is the storage tank for the bile. And that's the reason that I created this product, Bile Builder. And I would suggest that if there's one nutrient that will help, it's the Bile Builder at 2-3 times a day that I mentioned before. But please do not take it from me. Just read all of the testimonials with Bile Builder, which is a Unikey Health product, and as many of you know, I am an ambassador for Unikey Health Systems. But I find that with individuals that do not have a gallbladder, as years go on, we find that they're losing their ability to really utilize vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K properly. And that's because those are all fat-soluble vitamins. You really need that bile in there. Now, some people that don't have a gallbladder should be taking 2 of these 3 times a day. And for those of us that are eating a lot of fat, you also need the bile. I mean, eating a lot of fat, whether it's your paleo, your primal, or your ketogenic diet, without the ability to utilize the fat is foolhardy. So it's not about the fat in your life, it's what your body's doing about it. So that's where your gallbladder comes in handy, it's where the bile comes in handy, and it's where Bile Builder will be a godsend for some of you.
I vary in my oils, but I take 2 to 3 tablespoons of either olive, coconut, avocado, or MCT oil daily. How many omega-3 capsules should I take in addition?
So omega-3s are very important, but they're not more important than the omega-6s that you all should be reading about. And that's where Before the Change comes in handy, because I'm writing about it in there. So when it comes to the omega-3s, it's generally felt that around 1,500 to 2,000, which is 1.5 grams to 2 grams a day of omega-3. There are labs that can test your omegas, and I want to bring that to your attention. One of them is Your Future Health Now, or I think it's called Your Future Health. They're out of Tavares, Florida. And I think we have a link on my website, if I'm not mistaken. And there is one other lab which is known as that is back in New Jersey that's affiliated with the Body Bio company that will also test your omegas. So if you see that you're really, really low, then you supplement accordingly. But lower than the omega-3s are always the omega-6s. We have a major deficiency of linoleic acid because people are forgetting that you need 2 of those essential fatty acids, the omega-3s and the omega-6s, in a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. I think you're seeing a theme here, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, this is from that same gal. She says, my triglycerides are much better, but I can't seem to get the good fats in a healthy range, and I'm wondering if I'm taking too much.
Well, you need to be taking your omega-3s, your omega-6s, and a source of omega-9s. I mean, I love in that regard maybe a little bit of avocado oil, which has the highest smoke point. That's the reason that I have the good old avocado oil here. It's the high heat cooking oil of choice up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're loving this very specifically. And I would suggest that you could rotate those oils. You know, one day you might be able to do your avocado oil, maybe the macadamia nut oil, which also has a very high smoking point, And then I think that you're probably really home free with that. So I would do the macadamia, do the avocado, MCT oil, and I would rotate them. I think that's a great idea. But what you need on a daily basis, because they're essential, are the omega-3s and the omega-6s. Those are essential fatty acids, and you cannot take their place, but you certainly can with coconut oil, avocado oil, as well as the macadamia oil, which is a very good source, by the way, of omega-7s, which is very good for collagen.
Why is olive oil not allowed in phase 1 of fat flush?
So on fat flush, we don't allow olive oil. And why don't we allow olive oil? It's because phase 1 is trying to shore up all of your reserves of omega-3s and omega-6s. It's the reason that flaxseed oil, flax seeds, and chia and hemp are really part and parcel of my program. And we also have the GLA in the form of the black currant seed oil, because you need your omega-3s and 6s. Once you shore up those reserves, which will take 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks, then you can go ahead and have a little bit of olive oil.
You touched on this a bit earlier, but is there anything else you'd like to add about the coconut oil controversy?
What else would I like to add about the coconut oil controversy? If you go to unikihealth.com, you're going to see a wonderful blog called The Current Coconut Oil Controversy, and you'll hear a little bit more documentation about how I feel about it. You know, from time to time, there are a lot of industry-driven articles out there, and for many, many years, the soybean industry kept coconut oil off our shelves, and I wrote about this in 1988 and Beyond Pritikin. So I truly believe that coconut oil has its place in your diet. It's not a substitute for the omega-3s or the omega-6s. It's not an essential oil, but it's great to give you a boost. It's really good for your thyroid, as I mentioned before. Put it in your dandelion root tea, put it in your coffee. I think there's highly a place for coconut oil, and it's absolutely terrific in the form of manna, which I think I showed you previously. This Nutiva coconut manna is a real treat.
How do you lower cholesterol and triglycerides with food?
So I'd be concerned about the type of cholesterol, number one, and if you're a female, the triglycerides are more important than cholesterol in terms of lowering as far as your heart health is concerned. So when it comes to triglycerides, it's fish oil, hands down. Fish oil is very important in that 1.5 grams to maybe 2 grams. There's a product that I highly recommend for that, and maybe I have it here. It's the Super EPA. Look for a product like this that has about 480 milligrams of EPA, essential fatty acid, omega-3s, and DHA at 240 milligrams. I like about 1 to 2 of these per day. I think that's very helpful in terms of triglycerides, and it may also lower your cholesterol as well. When it comes to triglycerides, you have to watch your carbohydrates. So if you're eating a lot of apples or drinking a lot of apple juice, or if you're drinking a little bit of wine at night, cut it out for a little bit, take your blood test, you'll see your triglycerides are really going to come to normal levels. And we have another question right now.
I am preparing to begin phase 1 of fat flush and have started incorporating fish oil supplementation, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, and flax oil and seeds into my diet. How do I know how much to consume each day?
Okay, so we have really strong protocols, and the protocols are written in the book. So you look at the phase 1 protocols, and you will see that you're not going to be using olive oil on a daily basis, and you're not using avocado oil on a daily basis. The phase 1 protocol, I'll repeat for you, for everybody's benefit, which is 1 tablespoon of your flaxseed oil, and then you have 1 tablespoon of your coconut oil. So we're targeting the thyroid, and with the omega-3s, the flaxseed oil, we're targeting your hormones and giving them some phytohormone help. You can also have half an avocado, or you could have MCT oil in place of the coconut oil. So those two are interchangeable, but that's about it. There's no other oils. And I keep it to a minimum because a lot of people can't digest fats. So if you're having a problem digesting fats, that's where your bile builder comes into play. Or if you have a fatty liver, that's where the bile builder comes into play. So you have to really use all of these recommendations that I'm telling you and anyone else out there, and just use a little bit of discretion and see if it resonates to you and if it's good for your particular health history.
Does melting coconut oil each time I use it degenerate its health properties?
Does melting coconut oil degenerate its health properties? No, because it's very solid. The nice thing about coconut oil is it's very stable under higher heat. So coconut oil is terrific whether it's solid or whether it's semi-liquid or whether it's mixed into mono.
Should we switch around between coconut, avocado, hemp, and flax oils to get the goodness of each one?
So the important thing here is that you get the goodness of the essential fats on a daily basis. That's what I'm concerned about. The hemp seed oil has the omega-6 to omega-3, so that's a real keeper. And so is perhaps walnut oil, which is not necessarily on my program because it wasn't available when the program came out many years ago. That's another omega-3, but even with a higher omega-6 content, that would be good as a salad oil because you can't cook your omega-3s or your omega-6s. These are just salad oils. For the omega-3s, the other thing is fish oil. Some people use fish oil on their salad, believe it or not, because they're now flavored with orange or lemon. When it comes to the omega-6s, that's where you want a supplement of either, in this order, black currant seed oil, which is balanced with the omega-3s, or you may want some borage, or you may want the estrogenic factors of evening primrose oil. Those are essential. But that hemp seed oil, best salad dressing hands down. That's what you want on a daily basis. And then if you want to switch around, as I mentioned before, I think that's fine. You have high heating. What are you going to do for high heat? Well, the best oil of all is not an oil, but it in fact is ghee. So here's my ghee. I brought it from my refrigerator. So ghee has the highest smoking point of all these oils. You don't have any ghee, you're making some dish that you don't feel like using ghee, then you'd have some avocado oil and then macadamia nut oil. So depending upon your cooking and eating needs, you can switch around. But the most important thing is that you're digesting those oils. And that's where my lemon juice and water comes in handy. That's where my bile builder comes in handy. And that's where the bitters come in handy because bitter is better for digesting fats, for your liver, and for your bile.
Should people with high cholesterol choose low-fat dairy, and what fats should they stay away from?
People with high cholesterol have to stay away from sugar, is what you have to do. They're good fats for high cholesterol. That's where your omega-3s. There's a lot of research about the importance of the omega-3s in fish oil at 1 to 2 grams per day, perhaps even more in some cases, that will lower cholesterol. But it's not just cholesterol that's important to note. We've got to see some of those other values. And so if you're concerned about your heart, you want to see your C-reactive protein, you want to see your homocysteine, for example, you want to see your iron. So there are many other factors that need to be taken into consideration. I love fish oil. They're terrific brands that are on the market. I really like Carlson's. It's a company that I was affiliated with and represented. I also like Barlean's very much.
What are your thoughts on krill oil and calamari oil?
My thoughts on krill and calamari. Well, krill and calamari are smaller animals than fish. Smaller fish than animals, or aquatic creatures. They're smaller. So their oil can be a little bit purer. So I think those are fine substitutes. There are many companies now that put out a combination of krill from Antarctica, and there are also companies that put out calamari oil. So it gives us hope when we're eating our calamari that the omega-3s in the calamari will somehow neutralize the fried foods that we're eating.
What are the best oils for weight loss?
The best oils for weight loss are omega-3s and omega-6s. And when I first wrote my book, Fat Flush, many years ago, it was based upon some research that suggested that women that were taking omega-6s lost all kinds of body fat when they did nothing else except take omega-6s. So that's where your black currant seed to the tune of 360 milligrams perhaps comes in handy. And that's where your omega-3s, whether that's 1 to 2 tablespoons of flaxseed oil. They're very, very good for weight loss. And then we look at coconut oil, because that's 1 to 2 tablespoons that will really rev up the thyroid by 50%. That's quite a feat.
What oils are good for perimenopause?
So what oils are good for perimenopause? Of course, I cover this in great, great detail in Before the Change, which you can purchase now if you like, because you'll get all kinds of freebie goodies that are pre-order gifts to you. And I would say for perimenopause, flaxseed oil most definitely, because it's a phytoestrogen. And I'd also say that the good omega-6s, so that's where black currant seed oil would come in handy. And believe it or not, macadamia nut oil, because it's an omega-7, that's good for collagen. So I'm a big believer in macadamia nut oil, or a couple of macadamia nuts per day.
Do we need to toast flax if we can tolerate it?
So if you can tolerate flax, it's always good to toast it because it's got certain kinds of alkaloid substances that can, in excess, and the key here is excess, maybe 4 to 6 tablespoons a day, day in and day out, impact the thyroid. I would always toast my flax.
What is the ideal test for the omegas?
So the ideal test, once again, for the omegas is an omega blood test, and you can get that easily with Your Future Health that I mentioned previously and a lab that's associated with Body Bio out of New Jersey. And there may be other ones, I'm just not aware of them.
What's the ideal omega-3 to 6 ratio?
The ideal omega-3 to 6 ratio is 3 to 6, would probably be 1 to 3 to or 4. In other words, 1 part omega-3s to 3 or 4 parts of omega-6s. You see, omega-6s have had a bad rap. They really have. We have a lot of industrial and seed oils that are no good because they're altered and they're cooked. But you need unoxidized and pure omega-6s that you can get in the form of, once again, your hemp seed oil to be used as a salad oil, or you can use spirulina as a good omega-6, sesame oil, beautiful omega-6, as well as, I'm sure I'm missing one of them and it'll come to me, oh yes, pine nut oil, which is terrific. This pine nut oil is absolutely terrific for the health of your entire digestive tract and will help to really, I would say, nourish your mucous membranes the way nothing else will. 1 teaspoon 3 times a day, and you'll find that your acid reflux will be eased, as well as any kind of irritation with the esophagus and the stomach.
What oils are best for the health of your GI tract?
The oils that are best for the health of the GI tract is the one I just talked about because it's high in pinoleic acid, and that is your extra virgin Siberian pine nut oil. I love this at 1 to 2 tablespoons a day. Do not cook with it. Have it in a salad. Perhaps this is what you alternate with your hemp seed oil because it has the ideal ratio of the 3 to 6s.
What are the best oils for your skin?
So when you think about the skin, you think 6, the omega-6s. So the best oils for the skin would be the omega-6 oils. So we've got your Siberian pine nut oil, very high in skin-loving pinoleic acid, very similar to GLA, or GLA, there we go, I get very excited here, or GLA in the form of black currant seed oil, borage, or evening primrose oil. The issue with the evening primrose oil, although I wrote about it many years ago because it was the only oil that was available, is that we're finding it has an estrogenetic value, and many women experience breakthrough bleeding. But there's another source of the omega-3s that is out there that may be very helpful, and it's from Clary sage. There's a new Israeli company that I've just heard about that has a Clary sage omega-3 oil, which is now purported to be the highest oil of all in the omega-3s. So it's giving chia and flaxseed oil a run for their money.
How long do you recommend waiting to begin fat flush after a major surgery?
Okay, the question is how long to begin my signature weight loss program, which is Fat Flush, after a major surgery. I would say you'd start on Fat Flush and you go backwards. You do phase 3, which is just a healthy lifestyle diet. You can start right away. I don't think there's any issue whatsoever.
Okay, we have 3 more questions we're going to take. The first one is, besides magnesium, what helps sluggish bowels?
Besides magnesium, what helps sluggish bowels? Bile builder. A lot of people have problems with their bile because they don't have the lubricating factor of, or their problems with their bowels because they don't have the lubricating factor of bile. So this is one of the best things you can do for your constipation. So I'm loving Bile Builder, or the nutrients that are contained therein. Your choline is important, your ox bile, as well as your beetroot. And I also think when it comes to your gut and your colon, it's important to have the essential fatty acids, which also lubricates, and that's where fish oil is second to none.
What's the best way to know if you have a yeast problem if yeast infections are not present?
Best way to know if you have a yeast infection, if you blow within 20 minutes of eating food, if you find that you are very phlegmy in the morning, and if you have a white kind of coat on your tongue, chances are yeast may be, or the fungus among us may be part of you. And it's very prevalent in this day and age because we have antibiotics and secondhand antibiotics and chlorinated water that we're consuming, which kills your probiotics. So it's very common, and that's where you go on a yeast and mold-free diet. And I talk a little bit about that in Before the Change exchange and we can give you further information.
Okay, this is our last question.
Last question.
And it is not about healthy fats. It's a great one to touch on that we can maybe do on a future Facebook Live. And she is wanting to know about getting rid of parasites and is currently using papaya seeds.
Okay, so getting rid of parasites. Well, as it comes to, I mean, it's great that you're asking the question. And Al, you'll have to help me. We're doing a Parasite Summit. When is that going to be?
It begins on September 11th, and an email went out this week to everyone on Ann Louise's list.
Okay, so if you have not signed up for the list, please do so, and we'll get you all the information. There's going to be a Parasite Summit with all these experts all around the country, including me, myself, and we're going to be talking about how to get rid of parasites. There's a product line that I helped to formulate for Unikey Health Systems and the CEO, James William Templeton, and it's called My Colon Cleansing Kit. Look it up, look at the testimonials. That product has been out there for a good 15 years, and we have stellar reviews about it. It has elements in there that a lot of these other products on the market do not, including Centauri, very important Native American herb. We have the right kind of grapefruit seed extract in the other product, and you'll find if you look at everything that we have is that it's all balanced and pH balanced and fermented in the proper amount of time, and it's been very, very successful. So adios amigos, adios to you, adios amibas, and the next time when we're together, I think we should do something about why am I always so tired. So have a wonderful rest of your week and a terrific weekend.